Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about the pathway of blood through the heart. There's two paths that blood can take through the heart. One is referred to as the pulmonary circuit, and that is when blood leaves the heart, goes just to the lungs and back, so it doesn't have a very far distance to go. And that is all done by the right side of the heart. Being that it only has to go to the lungs and back, the right side of the heart tends to be a tad smaller than the left. Then we have the systemic circuit, which goes from the heart to the body and back, and always consist of the left side of the heart. Being that the left side of the heart has to push all the way up to the tops of your head and to the bottoms of your toes, the left side is always much larger than the right side. Alright, the pulmonary circuit. This is a pathway of blood. So if you are a blood cell, this is the path that you're going to take. So I'm pretending, well, you pretend you're a little red blood cell, and that you need to get all the way to the lungs and back, and to the body and back to start over. So this is a pathway. So first, low oxygen blood enters through the right atrium. So here's our heart. Alright, so it enters right here in the right atrium. It passes through the tricuspid valve, which is right here. Tricuspid means three cusps. So if you look at the valve, it looks like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, then it goes into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it leaves out of, and it's here in the back, but I'm going to draw it down here on the side. It leaves through the pulmonary semilunar valve, which looks like this. It's supposed to be a little half moon. Semi-half lunar moon. So, and the word pulmonary tells me it's going to the lungs. So it's going to leave out through the semilunar valve, and it's going to head to the lungs. Actually, well, it's going to the lungs, but first it needs to go through the pulmonary trunk. So the pulmonary trunk is kind of behind the heart, like this, and it goes like that, and it splits. So it looks like the trunk of a tree, not a truck like a 4x4 or a Toyota Tacoma or something like that. Trunka with an N, okay? A lot of people put a C there and call it truck. So it's going to go to the pulmonary trunk, and then it's going to split. It's either going to go off to the right or the left pulmonary artery. Now, arteries we usually think of as carrying oxygenated blood, but artery literally means that it carries blood away, away from the heart. So even though it's an artery, in this particular case, it's carrying deoxygenated blood. Then it's going to go to the lungs, where it's going to pick up all that nice oxygen and be nice bright red. So after it's done with the lungs, it's going to come back, and it's going to enter through the left and right pulmonary veins. Okay, so here's what we said so far. So that the blood is going to come in here to the right atrium, go through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Then it's going to go through the pulmonary semilunar valve right here, and then it's going to make a split to either pulmonary artery. Once it goes to the pulmonary artery, then it's going to end up in the lungs, where it's going to pick up all that nice oxygen, and now it's going to come back through the pulmonary veins. Pulmonary veins, once again, we think veins usually carry deoxygenated blood, but in this case it doesn't. It carries oxygen full blood. And then it's going to come back in over here to the left atrium. Let me see, is that where we left off? Comes back through the left and right pulmonary veins. I forgot to say, it comes in through the left atrium. I think I've got that on the next one. There we go. So now the blood is going to come in through the left atrium right here, and it's going to go through the bicuspid valve. So it has two cusps, kind of like that. Goes through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle. It's going to go out, we'll say it goes out here, but it's actually popping out like way up here. The aortic semilunar valve, so aortic tells you it's going to the aorta. From there, it goes out the aorta, which is that big curly thing on top like that. Goes out the aorta and out to the body. And there's three little pipes that stick up. Two of the pipes go to your head, and one kind of goes off and branches out to your arms. So that's going to feed your body, and then the aorta goes way deep down here and feeds the rest of your body. Then it's going to dump off all the oxygen into your body, and then the blood needs to come back by means of all your veins. And when it does, it's going to go either this way or this way. If it comes from the top, then it's going to be your superior vena cava. That's this one. And if it's from the bottom, it's going to be your inferior vena cava. and there's going to be a hole here and a hole here that dumps into the middle of your heart, back into the right atrium, and then we start all over again. So the right side of your body, the right side of your heart, I should say, is the pulmonary circuit because it goes to the lungs and back, and the left side of your heart is the systemic because it goes to your body and back. Okay, so here's systemic. So the blood is coming back from your lungs full of oxygen, dumps off in the left atrium, goes through the bicuspid valve into the left ventricle, goes through the aortic semilunar valve, which is kind of like right here, and then it's going to go up through the aorta, either up to your head or down to the rest of your body, and then it's going to dump off all the oxygen here and here until it's full of CO2 and other things, no oxygen, and then it's going to come back, and then it's going to enter through the top or the bottom. The top superior vena cava, the bottom inferior vena cava, and then back inside of your right atria. Okay, so there's your two types of circulation. Now there's a third type of circulation which we don't really think about. It's coronary circulation. Coronary refers to your heart, and the blood within the heart provides no nourishment to the muscles of the heart. So even though your heart is always full of blood, it doesn't get any oxygen, no food from it itself because the muscles are too thick for diffusion to supply anything. So we got to go through something called coronary circulation. That is the blood supply that's given directly to the myocardium, or the muscles of the heart. You have a couple of different arteries that allow this to happen. You have the right and the left coronary arteries. They provide the oxygenated blood from the heart, from the aorta. So the aorta goes out of your heart like this, and there's three little things that split off. But right at the base, right here, there's another little one that splits off. So we have the big one, and then a little guy that comes off like this. And that's the coronary arteries. Now the left coronary artery runs to the left of the heart, and so he goes this way, and he splits into two. We have the anterior, so in the front, interventricular artery. So remember, this means in between the ventricles, and anterior means on the front. So this guy fits and follows the groove in your heart where the interventricular sulcus is. So he feeds the interventricular septum, so here's my heart. Whee! So he's going to go down here and he's going to feed the septum in between, and he's also going to feed the front half of the ventricles. Then we have the circumflex artery, which is going to supply the left atrium. So that's going to be this dude right up here. So he kind of goes around the corner like this. So we got this one and this one. So he's going to feed the left atrium and the posterior, the backside of the left ventricle. Okay, so here we go. So if you follow, here's the aorta, and then here's where it pops out. And so here is our main one right here. Okay, so if we go back, what did we say? It was a coronary artery, and then we have the left, right, and left. So this is the left one, because if you notice, let me get a different color than red on a red heart. So here's the left one, here's the right one. So we're only looking at the left one. Here's the circumflex, which goes around, CFX, circumflex. And then we have this one right here, which is the interventricular artery. So that's this one, anterior interventricular artery. So those are the two, circumflex and anterior interventricular, right there. Okay, this is the backside of the heart. We'll talk about him in a minute. By the way, circumflex goes all the way around. So here he is, and he goes down like that. This guy actually goes down and then sometimes pops back up on the other side over here. Okay, now the right coronary artery, which is this guy, because he's on the right side of the heart, the right coronary artery goes into the right and divides in two as well. We have the marginal artery, which feeds the lateral side portion of the heart of the right side, and the posterior interventricular artery, which runs to the heart apex and supplies the posterior ventricular walls. So let's take a look at those. So we have the marginal artery. Okay, it's kind of hard to see because he goes around like that and then kind of pops up around the corner and goes like that, and then there's one like that. So let's see, what are we looking for? We're looking for the marginal artery, which feeds the lateral right side of the heart. So here's the right side over here. So that looks like this guy a little bit of this guy, so going down like that. Okay, so right there. So there's your marginal artery, and then we have the posterior interventricular artery, runs to the heart apex. Okay, so if we go to the back side, okay, and then let's see, here he is, right here. That guy, right there. So he's on the back side, and he's going to feed some of this stuff right here. Okay, now veins are pretty much follow the same path as the arteries do. They usually kind of buddy up, but they do something interesting on the back. So our cardiac veins, what they do is they collect the deoxygenated blood from the heart. They follow the same path as the arteries. They join to form what's called a sinus. A sinus is a big open cavity. So in this case, it's just where all the vessels kind of come together. And that empties into the right atrium. So let me take a peeky real quick. And so let's see. I wanted to show you the sinus, not that one. Not that one either. Okay, hang on. So the sinus has three main parts. We have the great cardiac vein, which is in the anterior interventricular sulcus. So remember, it's in the groove, sulcus, groove. So it's in the groove that's on the front, anterior front, in between the ventricles. So let's see. Great cardiac vein. So here he is, goes down and around like that. So he's in the interventricular groove. Okay, then we have the middle cardiac vein, which is in the right inferior margin. So the right inferior. So here's the right hand side. Inferior is below, so that's this guy right here. And then we have the last one, the anterior cardiac vein, which is right near the right atrium. So we go back over here, and let's see, hold on a second. Anterior cardiac vein, anterior, here we go. So they're kind of hard to see there and there. So here's the right atrium that they're close to. Now if you notice, they kind of go down around, and this guy pops back up on the back over here. So on the back side is where we end up seeing those sinuses. So the sinuses is just where they all join up together. So where they all kind of, so if we follow here, let me erase, and then I'll show you the direction. So the blood flow is going this way. So let's see, collecting, he's going this way, and he's going this way. So here in the middle kind of goes either way, and then this way, this way, this way, and then dumps right here into the right atrium. Okay, now what happens if blood flow doesn't happen properly to your heart? You have something called angina. Yes, I know it sounds like vagina, but it makes me giggle anyway. Angina. Angina pectoris. Angina means pain. Pectoris means around the pectoral region. This is thoracic pain that is caused by oxygen deprivation to the cardiac muscle tissues. It can be caused by many factors, and it's not usually too serious, but it can weaken the cells, which can cause further damage down the line. The bad one is an MI, or a myocardial infarction, otherwise known as a heart attack or a coronary. These are caused by prolonged loss of oxygen. So this is short-time loss, this is long-time loss, and the cells eventually die because they're not being fed any oxygen or nutrients. When they die, they don't regenerate. So once a portion of your heart stops working, that's it. It doesn't do anything else. If the portion of your heart that is damaged is the left ventricle, then that's the worst, because remember, he's the one who's got to pump to the whole rest of your body. So damage to this guy is actually the worst that you can have. So here's an example of something that can cause it. If you have a clot that's in one of your coronary arteries, so say like right here, if you have a clot in there, and so the blood can't go down into this area, every portion of your heart that is fed by that blood vessel will die. And so if this left ventricle cannot contract and cannot pump blood out, well then loss of blood pressure, and then you eventually die. Here's an actual picture or a slice of a heart taken coronally, so that way you can see the heart. Here's the left ventricle, and it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a discoloration between the good heart, the red, and the bad heart. Here's really, really bad. And this one's also really old too. So this guy obviously survived for a little while. So this one is healed. Now we're not talking healed, it's good as normal. It just means it hasn't popped and exploded. So this could be weeks to years old. Subacute, right here, probably just a couple of days old. So this guy was having symptoms up until his last moments of life. And then this one is brand new, fresh right here. Notice all in the left ventricle, not so much in the right ventricle. So this guy, yeah, no, that's not good. All right, I think, yep, that's about it. So, yeah, if you have any questions for me tomorrow, just write them down. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And happy note taking. Oops, bye-bye.